Reframing the sale. In rent-to-own, customers often hesitate to rent due to credit concerns, repeating payments, or needing approval from others. This reframing technique helps keep you in control of the conversation, overcome objections, and will guide the customer to self-close. Make it seem like it was their idea, not yours, all while being ethical and helpful. What is reframing in RTO? Reframing is what you say after a customer objects or hesitates. Instead of directly answering their question, you need to ask about the question itself, shifting control back to you. For example,
Is this used furniture?
Good question. Just so I understand, are you asking because you've had a bad experience with pre-owned furniture before? Let's take a look at the 3A framework. The first one is acknowledge. You want to acknowledge someone by mirroring what they said. This is the first step because it shows you're listening, not just hearing, but truly understanding. For example, if the customer asks,
Do the payments change if I get paid weekly instead of bi-weekly?
you would say, so, you're wondering if the payment plan changes based on how you get paid. Doing this builds an instant connection by showing respect. It makes the customer feel heard, which lowers the tension. And it sets the stage for a real conversation, not just a sales pitch. The second is associate. This step is about validating the customer's mindset or reasoning, even if their question or concern isn't exactly on target. People want to feel heard and respected, not corrected or dismissed. If the customer asks,
Does the payment plan change depending on when I get paid?
you would say, that shows you're thinking ahead. Smart, it's always good to plan. When you affirm their thinking, it does a few powerful things. It builds rapport and trust between you and your customer. It makes the customer feel smart and in control. And it lowers the customer's defenses and opens the door for you to have a real conversation. Finally, the third A is for attack. Attack doesn't mean being aggressive. It means respectfully challenging the surface-level question so you can uncover the real issue behind it. For example, if the customer asks,
Do the payments change depending on when I get paid?
by now you have already acknowledged what the customer said by asking, so, you're wondering if the payment plan changes based on how you get paid. And you have already associated with them by saying, that shows you're thinking ahead. Smart, it's always good to plan. Now, you attack, gently. You say, is your concern more about having to make multiple payments every week, or are you thinking it might be easier to make one monthly payment instead? When you attack, you are clarifying your intent. When someone asks a question, their intent is the real reason they're asking. Customers don't always know how to ask the right question. They might say one thing, but mean something else. You're reframing the question to something you can actually solve. And you're positioning yourself as a problem solver, not just a policy reader. Customers often ask indirect questions because they don't know how to ask what they really want to know. By gently digging deeper, you help them clarify their concern, and that gives you the chance to offer the right solution, not just a surface answer. Let's take a look at 5 ethical reframing rules for RTO. Number 1. Customers will believe what they say first before they believe what you tell them. Ask them questions that will get them to say something like,
I guess this does make sense for us.
For example, you could ask them something like, what do you like about rent-to-own versus paying up front? People trust their own thoughts and opinions more than yours, especially when it comes to making buying decisions. If you try to convince them, they'll often resist, even if what you're saying is true. But if they say it out loud themselves, it becomes their idea, and they believe it. Number 2. No one argues with a question. Instead of making a statement, ask a question. For example, you could ask, what's most important to you, price, flexibility, or service? This makes the customer feel heard, not sold to. When you make a statement, people can challenge it, but when you ask a question, people lean in and think about it. Questions invite conversation. They reduce resistance. Number 3. Define their question for them. For example, if the customer says,
What happens if I miss a payment?
what they're really thinking could be, will you work with me if something goes wrong? Am I going to get hit with fees like last time? Can I actually trust you? Help the customer feel understood and safe. Let them know you're really listening, and try asking them, are you asking because you're worried about our flexibility, or your past experiences? Now you're solving their real fear, not just explaining policy. Customers often ask surface-level questions that hide a deeper fear or concern. Your job isn't just to answer what they say, it's to uncover what they mean. Number 4. Make up a fictional customer from a third-party story. Instead of talking at the customer, tell a short story about someone else who had the same concern. This lowers pressure and helps the customer see themselves in the story, without feeling judged. For example, you could say, "Actually, someone asked me that earlier today. They were also worried about the cost at first, but once we broke down how flexible the payments are, they felt way more comfortable. Want me to walk you through the same thing?" This does a few key things for the customer. It makes their concern feel normal. It shows that others like them figured it out, and it builds trust without being pushy. Stories are non-threatening. They can take the spotlight off the customer and let you frame the solution without sounding like you're selling them. Number 5 is to stay curious, not defensive. When a customer pushes back, questions your offer, or seems skeptical, it's easy to get tense or feel like you have to defend the product or your business. But the more defensive you get, the less they trust you. Instead, respond with curiosity. Genuinely try to understand why they feel that way. Let's say a customer says,
"That seems kind of expensive."
The defensive and most common response might be, "Well, actually, if you break it down, it's cheaper than paying upfront when you factor in delivery costs and setup fees." Instead, try curiosity. "That's interesting. Can you tell me more about why it feels that way to you?" This makes them feel safe, heard, and gives you real insight into what matters most to them. It makes you their guide, not a pushy salesperson. Let's take a look at some examples of reframing.
"I really can't decide right now. I need to talk to my spouse."
That makes sense. What do you think they'll want to know most about this deal?
"I'm not looking to get anything right now. I'm just looking."
Okay. Do you know if there's anything specific you're hoping to find or avoid this time?
"I don't want to get locked into a contract."
I completely understand. Do you mean you're worried about commitment, or just not sure if you'll need it long-term?
"That just seems really expensive."
Good, you've noticed, but are you comparing this to cash prices or just trying to stay under a monthly budget? Ethical reframing isn't about tricking customers. It's about guiding them to see the value on their terms. By asking the right questions, staying curious, and sharing relatable stories, you build trust and lower resistance. The goal is to make the customer feel heard, understood, and supported, not sold to. Here are some final tips to help you with your sales. Help customers sell themselves on the benefits. Remind them about the flexibility of payments we offer, the low upfront cost, and how there is no credit impact, since we don't check their credit. Remember, you close deals by asking better questions, not by arguing or trying to win. Remember to be empathetic and guide the customer to self-close, and to always maintain good rapport. Don't forget, the one asking the questions leads the conversation. Finally, remember, the goal is honest, helpful sales, making them the hero, not just closing for the commission. This will lead to better retention.